a topic that a lot of people do talk to NABA about, call NABA about. Can we see the PowerPoint here, Lisa?
Yep, you're doing great.
Okay, all right. So we're going to talk about lighting today. Like I said, a lot of people do call us about different questions regarding lighting. What kind of lighting should I get is best for this consumer? I have a loved one that's really struggling with lighting. So I'm going to talk about some considerations that people should look into when they're thinking about what kind of lighting they need. Okay, and this is not. Okay, keyboard not working. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the first thing that we want to understand is what's happening with the aging eye. So there are a lot of things that happen to our eyes cosmetically and otherwise as we get older, but as it pertains to lighting, we need to understand what happens to the pupil. The pupil is the black hole in the center of the eye that allows light to come in and focus on the retina. But as we get older, our pupils actually start to restrict, and so less light is able to come into the eye. So the muscles are not quite as flexible as they used to be, and so we're not actually getting as much light into the eye as we used to when we were younger. It's the fact that about a 40-year-old adult will need twice as much lighting as the average 20-year-old. And a person with low vision, meaning perhaps macular degeneration, will need 3 times as much light as someone with normal vision. So if you've noticed as you're getting older that you're turning on more lights in the house, I know I definitely have been, it's not your imagination. There is actually something going on with your vision that affects lighting. So what are some other things that affect lighting besides the aging eye? So when you're starting to consider what kind of lighting you want to use, you certainly want to consider the size of the room that you're attempting to illuminate. So if you can see the PowerPoint, we have a room on the left that's rather large. It's a living room setting. And the room might be a kitchen, it might be a garage, it might be just a small office area. So you want to consider the size of the room. You want to consider the colors that are in the room. And again, on the PowerPoint, we have a room on the left that's very brightly colored. It's got a lot of white walls, white ceilings, light colored furniture with contrasting pillows. We have some natural light coming in from the far right of the picture, as opposed to the picture on the right, where we have dark walls, a beige ceiling, dark floor coverings. The lighting in the right picture has very small lamps with sort of beige shades that aren't really throwing a lot of light. And there's also no natural light coming into the room. So you really definitely want to look at the color tones that you have in the room and see if you can play with that a little bit. You also want to look at the effects of natural light. If you do have large windows, you want to be able to make sure that you can maximize that natural light, maybe with light filtering shades, sheers as opposed to dark draperies, and take into effect, how the lighting will change throughout the day. Is that giving you enough light in that room? There are different kinds of bulbs on the market now. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Incandescents versus LEDs. They'll definitely make a difference in the type of lighting that the kind of illumination you're going to have in your space. And you also want to think about the ability to control the lighting. So do you have something that can be rotated or bent or moved or angled, as opposed to something that's just stationary? You also really want to think about the task that you or this person is trying to do. So you don't necessarily want to illuminate an entire room unless you are trying to, create a large workspace. For example, like I mentioned, like a workshop area or a craft area. You might want to think about, is this a smaller task? Is this person trying to illuminate a meal preparation area or over a sink so that they're for washing dishes? Is it just for reading? Or is it a task that requires color, for example, makeup application, maybe some artwork? So it's not just the size of the room and the decor and all that, but really the task at hand. So I want to talk a little bit about LED lighting. LED lighting is the brightest bulb on the market right now, very popular. It was much cheaper than it was about 5 years ago when LED bulbs were about 40 times the price of an incandescent bulb. They're now about 3 times as much as an incandescent bulb. So you might spend about $5 on an LED bulb right now, but they are long lasting. So one LED bulb should last about as long as 21 incandescent bulbs, which means that you don't have to get up in a step ladder, or your loved one is not getting up in a step ladder and changing bulbs as often as they need to be. So it can be a safer option for some people. Anyone with physical limitations, again, less issues with trying to manipulate bulbs that are out of reach. And I do just want to say something about the long lasting, because I've had a few people who have said to me, well, I did invest in LED bulbs and they really didn't last any longer than my incandescent bulbs. I just felt like I wasted my money. So you definitely want to think about where you're buying your LED bulbs, because these bulbs, just like any other product on the market, have really good quality bulbs, but also poor quality. So just like getting batteries at the dollar store are not going to last a real long time, LED bulbs at the dollar store are also not going to last very long. So when you're shopping for LEDs, you want to look for quality manufacturers like GE. There's a bulb called Cree, C-R-E-E. That's also a good brand for LED bulbs. So definitely, just like any other product in the market, buyer beware. They're energy efficient. So again, you should be getting like 25,000 hours out of an LED bulb. And now they can also be controlled. So when they first came out, you couldn't put dimmer switches in them. You couldn't put them in a 3-way lamp. So now you can do that also with LEDs. The best places for LEDs are things like illuminating a large room. So we're getting a lot of LEDs at NABA, and some people love them. Some people find them a bit bright, but they are excellent for illuminating a larger space. They're also great for task lighting. So if you want to put some lighting under your countertops, over your sink, over your stove, they're great for those areas. But they're also great for like a desk area. If you're writing checks or using your laptop, you can get them in like a gooseneck lamp or a floor lamp. And they're also placed in a lot of magnification. So at NABA, virtually all of our magnification now is LED lit. There are some people that find those bulbs to be too bright, but again, most people prefer the extra illumination that they can provide, and the magnification lasts a long time. So we want to talk about lumens. We're used to the old school like 60-watt bulb and talking about watts, and we kind of know what that looks like, but really lumens are the measure of the brightness of a bulb, whereas watts really just show how much energy the bulb is consuming. So now when you're shopping for bulbs, you really want to check the lumens. So the higher the lumens, the brighter the light. 800 lumens is about what we remember to be a 60-watt bulb, incandescent bulb. So to light up a larger area, you might want to go to 1,000 lumens, 1,200 lumens. So you want to start looking at lumens and understand that that's the brightness of a bulb. So what happened to incandescents anyway? So they're still out there, but they are gradually on their way out. Incandescents are nice for more of an ambiance, but they're really not very bright. So they are still helpful for some people who are very light sensitive, but they're actually getting harder and harder to find. And in fact, several states have banned incandescent lighting now for environmental reasons. So the state of California, Washington State, and Nevada have now banned these types of bulbs. This is probably the way it's going as our nation becomes more energy efficient. Again, you want to be able to control your lighting. So when looking at blinds and curtains, you want to, again, maybe look for light filtering blinds as opposed to blackout blinds or room darkening blinds. Curtains that are sheer or lace will allow some natural light to come in. And you also want to be able to access those blinds and curtains. Sometimes what I see in people's homes, especially with senior citizens, is that they have great curtains or blinds, but they have a really big couch right in front of it. So then they can't access or easily access these window dressings in order to manipulate the light. Lamps with goosenecks or rotating arms will allow you to change that lighting and angle it differently depending on what you're doing. Dimmer switches, you might not need as much light during the day, but then at night you can always switch the lighting up. And I've had a few adult children invest in smart bulbs for their elderly parents. Because sometimes if it's more difficult for this person to lower or raise the lighting in these different areas, LEDs can be connected to a smart bulb system where you can use an app on your phone and raise and lower lighting, turn lighting on and off from a different location. There are some people who are travelers who use this anyway, but I've had some family members use this for their loved ones. So I want to talk a little bit about natural light. Some people do work better with natural light versus artificial. So if that's the case, you might want to manipulate your desk area, for example, or your computer area to an area where you're near windows, near the preferred lighting. Change the blinds and curtains to maximize the natural light in that area. The only problem with real natural light is that it's difficult to control. It can cause glare and shadows throughout the day. Also, that might depend on what you have outside the window, a tree or so forth. Obviously, the light changes throughout the day depending on the time, and the time is limited. So by a certain hour, you don't have that natural light anymore. So it's great for some people, but you can't use it all of the time. Which brings us to the OTT lamp, OTT. These are lamps that provide the closest thing to natural light, but with the control. So again, these are available in gooseneck form and in the floor lamp style. And natural light is really great for any kind of color. So artwork, makeup, crafts. It's also really good for reading because it enhances contrast. So that black print against the white background is enhanced. So if LED is not the way to go, you really prefer natural light, you might want to invest in like an OTT lamp. All of these things you can get online. If you really like to see them in person, Joann Fabrics is one place where I've seen the OTT lamps. And you also just need to remember that everyone is different. So depending on your eye condition, your sensitivity to glare, the decor of your home, sometimes budget can interfere with your ability to manipulate some of this, but most of all, your adaptability. So you really want to be able to invest in yourself and make life easier. If you know that you need more lighting and you have the budget to work with it, I would definitely recommend, using the lighting that works best for you. If you do have questions about this kind of thing, you can call NABA and ask to speak with one of the vision rehab therapists. You can certainly explore a lot of these options online. A lot of this kind of lighting is available in stores that we all use all the time: Lowe's, Home Depot, Target, Joann Fabrics, places like that. So you can really shop around for this all of these different kinds of lighting that we talked about today. So that is what I have here for lighting. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I think we're done. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Christina, very much for everything that you did. It was a very interesting topic. And Christina, I'm waiting for Lisa to get back on. We'll be putting that, as Lisa said, back on our website at the beginning of November. This presentation will be there. And Lisa's back on.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.